Thank you, Victoria. Sveiki, Latvia. Hi, ladies and gents. Thanks for having me here. I'm Valerian Gegidze from Tbilisi, Georgia. I'm an entrepreneur, angel investor, and today I would like to share my experience, which I've gained through the years of working in digital industry, specifically how to hire and manage your remote teams. So let's start the presentation. The bearded, handsome guy on the right side who looks exactly like me has experience of the digital industry around 15 years. And during this time, I managed to build remote teams for startups, SMEs, and agencies from 16 countries together with my team. We have interviewed more than 4,000 talents who are currently in the talent pool. And we have been building our companies and also companies of our clients fully remote. So I guess there's much experience how to properly hire and manage your remote team. So let's start. Initially, when we decide to hire, we should understand and what is our team setup and what's our individual needs. And it all starts with defining organizational structure. So how we end up with our organizational structure and how it works. I would say the first most important things are our current team roles and their responsibilities. So once we have our C-level team, the first things that we should do and what we have done for our company itself was to write down the whole process from very end till the very beginning, where you create the product or a service and till the customer ends cooperation with you. And from this A to B points, you should write down all processes, all steps, all stakeholders, what communication channels you use, what docs you exchange, and basically you will have the whole structure how your company works. And this will help you to identify the gaps. So either you need a full-time team to fill these gaps, or let's say initially you need a CFO, COO, marketing lead, of course the CEO, and then when you do a breakdown what kind of resources you are needing, you might find out that instead of hiring someone for a graphic design for a full-time, you just need them for, I don't know, 10 hours a week. And then you probably need to hire for another 20 hours. And an engineering team, you might need a product owner for a full-time, but maybe for some smaller tasks, you need someone for a shorter period of time. But basically, it should be written down and you can understand it way easier. After that, when you have defined what are the gaps in your structure and what kind of resources you need, you should understand where you will be hiring your remote team. Is it locally only in your country, or you're also open to hire internationally? And then people mostly compare this kind of challenges, like should we hire on a global scale anywhere, which is really nice because you have access to way more different resources, skills, and experiences. But it's also harder to manage because it's kind of different culture, people with different backgrounds, different time zones. So it can be hectic. So what I would do and what we have done for ourselves, we said that, okay, if we cannot find someone in our country, then maybe we should just go to a nearby country. Or, if it's also you need a cost-efficient solution, maybe you should target some digital hub. So somewhere, let's say for Latvia, it could be Eastern Europe, and specifically one country. Because when you target one country and want to build your remote team there, it will make stuff easier. First of all, if they'll be in one country, most probably they'll have an opportunity to meet together, work from the same office, to socialize, which will, in the long term, help to grow loyalty and also the team spirit. Then it's also easier because you learn the culture, how people work there. And in terms of research, it's also easier and cost effective because you'll understand what is the salary differentiation between your country and Eastern Europe. So let's say if we compare Baltics and Eastern Europe, the prices could be anywhere from 30 to 50% were for. So this kind of research done for every individual country, which also has some kind of deviations from 10 to 30%, could be a really game changer. So once you have done this research, you set up the budgets, and based on the cost of living, based on the salary expectations, and start hiring. Also, an important thing to do is to understand the culture of the company and also the team dynamics and how does it work. So I would say that the first 10 hires will definitely build your company culture, because it's nothing that comes from Google search, or you just cannot take some value which is not relevant to you and just integrate into the company. So basically, the first comers to the company will bring their values, will bring their experiences and knowledge, and then together you form the culture. And it's also important to understand what is your culture, because just living and experiencing it, it's quite easy and nice, but you should somehow share it with your future team members and, of course, other stakeholders. So I would encourage you to sit down together with your team and write down what is exactly that you are doing in the company. So besides the vision and mission, what is your DNA? What makes you unique? And it can be anything, starting with taking care of planet, or animals, or sustainability, or I know life outside of the planet. Whatever is relevant for you, just write it down and make sure that you communicate this with your future team members, because that's what people are looking today. It's not only opportunity to work somewhere, but also to be part of something meaningful and find a like-minded people. So I believe this is one of the crucial parts for growing your remote team. So after we have done this job, we are moving to talent search. And the first step for the talent search is definitely creating a job description. And let me tell you the most common mistake that all the entrepreneurs and founders are doing. So they mostly start with the name. And the name can be anything from office manager to software engineer, or any name or any title. But the problem is that once you have a title and then start to create all requirements, tasks, and other things that's relevant for job description, you basically miss a lot of stuff, because an office manager, for example, for me, can be a person who just manages the supplies, meets the clients, and maybe just does a booking for some C-level executives. But for others, there could be someone who also makes the coffee, makes room clean and other stuff. So before communicating a title, even with your team members, start with basic information. Start with, I would encourage you to start with requirements. So what is that you are looking for? What kind of knowledge, experience, language skills, what skill set and what culture should the person have? And just write it down in a bullet points. And then also write down the tasks, because when you write the tasks, it makes clear for all the team members what this person should be doing, and also for you. And only after that, you can actually understand that it's not only, for example, a software engineer, but you probably need a team lead, because in the task, you understand that this person should be senior enough to delegate the tasks between the team members. So only after writing the requirements and tasks, you can name the job opening. Also, make sure that you have the company information filled in, and not only like boring stuff when the company was established and something like this, but make it personal. So tell about the team, what are you up to, where you operate, what are your products, what are your goals, because hiring is basically like sales. It's just target audiences are different, and you should target your talents and sell your company and the vision, and of course the problems that you are solving. So try to make it as smooth as possible. Of course, include a basic information about the companies, because what's the workload, what's the time schedule, the location, the salary, And that's probably also one of really important topics. A majority of the companies just do not write the salary because they're somehow afraid not to, overpay or maybe underpay as well. But the thing is, if you've done the research and you have a goal, then you have to have a plan how to accomplish that goal. And it also costs money. So be brave, be bold enough to write down whatever you have, and it will help you to save a lot of time and resources, and also on the talent side, because it's really easy. And according to statistics, only 1 out of 5 people will apply for your job if you do not have written salary expectations. So yeah, we actually need to write salary. It's probably the best recommendation I can give you. And finally, the benefits. So it doesn't matter what you have, whether it's pizza on a Friday, private health insurance, a hardware, an office space, community events, whatever you do, just write it down and listen to your talents, listen to your team, what they're looking for, and try to adapt. Maybe they just want to have a table tennis at the office space, or they just want to have one-on-one meetings every now and then. But the benefit should be clearly stated and also should be followed. So once we have finished with the job description, then we're moving to a sourcing channels, which makes the game even more interesting, because depending on the country you source, it can vary a lot. So let's start with the most common ones, like social media. And in social media, we can define 2 ways. One is posting an ad, and the other one is doing a outreach or a sourcing. So in terms of ads, I would say that the most effective one would be a LinkedIn, because you have all the professionals there, and the people mostly are looking for jobs or for clients. So it's like business field, business industry, and everybody's focused on a business. So if you get someone from LinkedIn, probably the matching profiles would be higher than from any other job ad. If you compare it with Facebook, so I would probably say not to use Facebook job ad module, because you get really bad profiles. I mean, we never got any relevant profile from the ad, but you can use it as a post. So you can just make a banner and post this as a regular ad, and find the target audience, but not use the model because it's not relevant. The same with an Instagram. I would say that Instagram and Facebook would work better for the marketing, design, and operational roles. But if you're looking for engineers or techie people, I would encourage you to go to LinkedIn, also GitHub, and some other techie places, which is quite obvious. In terms of sourcing, for sure, you should use LinkedIn and do the proper outreach with, I would say if you want to have high conversion, do it individually. Don't use automation and messaging sequences, because it's easily readable. There are a lot of mistakes also done during the automation process. And once people see that you reached out to them with automation, well, nobody wants to be interacted with automation. Just put yourself in the shoes. And once you make a tailored reach out, the conversion rate would increase anywhere from, I don't know, 2% to maybe 50 to 60%. So it's totally worth investing your time into tailored approach. Then going to job websites. Well, that's, I would say, a good way to get a lot of CVs, but also has a lot of work. So the same way, for example, we try to use a job listing websites for operational roles like customer support, sales, because this is a kind of profile that are visiting those websites. But depending on the country, it can be different, because let's say in some countries, they're really popular for tech. Like I know that in Baltics, it's popular mid-franc, where you have mostly techie website roles. Sorry. So depending on the role you are posting, you just have to have individual strategy where you're posting what kind of communication and messaging you have. Then let's narrow down and focus on more high conversion channels. And I would say the communities would be the best. In communities, I would say that the best experience that we have is probably reaching out people through a Slack channels, because there are dedicated Slack channels for, I don't know, Ruby, any framework, any design work. If you are in a Web3, definitely you use other channels not related to Slack, and maybe a Reddit, and of course, an offline communities which you can find on a Meetup or Eventbrite. And moving to the events, I would say events are probably most expensive thing how to hire, but also very efficient because you meet people in person. You can also collect a lot of information from one event. And besides, let's say, tech startup events, you can go to the universities where they have job fairs. And in this case, most probably you won't be hiring senior or middle guys, mostly juniors. But in a long-term strategy, I would say that it's really important to build your brand awareness amongst youngsters, especially if you are scaling your company and building for a long term. Then I would definitely do that. So from our side, we, for example, work with all possible universities, communities, all networks, basically anyone who is related into education. We are their go-to company because we create for them really nice opportunities. So if you can bring the value to those guys, absolutely do that. And the best thing how you can also understand if you are doing well or not is the network and the referral system. Because if the company is good, your current hires will make introductions to their people, to their network, because everybody wants to share good stuff and show that they're working in a nice place. So that would be a measurement if you're doing well or not. So that's how I would say what are the main sourcing channels. Okay, moving to screening and shortlisting. So I would say this is one of the major parts, because once we have collected a lot of information, we need to understand how we process this information. And before that, we should have a strategy and understand what kind of tools we use to make it most efficient. So there are a lot of AI tools which you can use to understand if you have a match or not. Let's say even LinkedIn has some kind of assessment where it can just provide information if the profile experience matches with your needs. And we also use, for example, Zoho, which has really great recruitment tool. And there are also a lot of different tools. But in any ways, you should just understand which one works better for you. As we're doing a tailored approach, but we need to basically make the process efficient, we came up with the idea that for specific roles, we are asking our talents or candidates to record a video besides providing a CV and their basic information. Because it happens a lot that you have great CV and then you talk to a person and straight away from the first sentence you realize that it doesn't work because the soft skills are not good. They have bad language skills, but in the CV it can be fluent or I don't know, something like this. So you just basically save a lot of your time just getting these videos. You can ask for just 1 minute video and ask main questions. So it will help you a lot. After that, the way we do checkup of the CVs, so we try to understand how people think, because the way they structure CVs can tell a lot about their way of thinking. So if they have a photo or not, what kind of information they put, if they have links to the portfolio and other stuff. So let's say if somebody's applying for a graphic design role and the CV looks not really appealing, then probably most probably they're not good designers, right? And then through the CV, you definitely should check other information, their digital presence, so LinkedIn, other social medias, or where they have a portfolio, and come up with this final decision based on individual requirements. So once you have processed this main information, the next thing is a soft skill interview. And a soft skill interview is probably really tough because it also covers part of hard skills. But the way you should do it in a right way is you first need to structure the interview because that's your candidate experience. So everybody is nervous because they're applying for the job. Most probably they want to become part of your team, right? So they are looking for a guidance during the interview. And once they come, after you do the introduction, it's really nice to give them step-by-step manual that, hi, I'm Valerian, I'm going to be talking to you and interviewing you today. And the interview will be split into three parts. So the first part, you will be sharing information about yourself. In the second part, we'll tell you about our requirements and the project itself. And as third part, we're going to do a Q&A. And straight away, a person understands what's going to happen. So basically, it will help to get ready for the next steps, and the interview will get better. So then preparing the questions. So basically all the stuff in recruitment is having stuff prepared and written down. So for every specific role, you need to have at least 3 questions to understand how people think, what is their experience, and also double checking their experience in more details. So probably it's nice to do a research, talk to an industry expert, get their insights and some tricky questions, and also listen really hard to the candidates because you'll find all information in those answers. Then we also try to do some stress interview elements during the interviews, especially if we have something client or talent facing roles, let's say a customer support or a talent success manager, because those people will be facing um, hard situations and hard conversations. So they need to have this emotional intelligence. So what we do is basically we sometimes ask to switch to other language they speak, let's say from Georgian to English or to Russian or to German or to whatever it is, and then ask a little bit strange questions out of the blue. So what are you going to do if you have $1 million? And they're like, what should I do? And this kind of questions help you to understand how can they manage the stress and also how can they pivot from the main conversation. And finally, what you should do as a good recruiter or uh, person from HR industry, you should understand the body language really well because the thing is, if in information exchange, more than 80% of information is exchanged via body language. Around 7 to 9% is verbal, and all other left is expression on the face. So the whole idea is just to look and also monitor and also listen to your candidates to understand if they're matching or not. So once the soft skill interview is done, then we're moving to a hard skill and a reference check. So I've heard a lot of mistakes done in the tech industry that people talk. There's a soft skill interview, they like the candidate, and that's it. They make a decision straight away. But the problem is that some people just can't sell their skills way better than they actually are. So there's no way that you need to hire someone unless you check the experience. So that's what at least what we do. So once the soft skill is done, then you should prepare a tailored hard skill interview. It can be a coding challenge or a test task, or I know, basically anything related to their role. And I would encourage you to do different checkups. So the way people think, so to give them something to structure, something chaotic. Then the messaging and communication. So it can give them a situation where something is failing and they need to report to their team or to a client. So it's also important to understand how they can communicate, and of course something really relevant to their role. Solving problem in a user experience, or you just give them a code which needs reshaping or something like this. And at some point we also do another interview after they've done a test task, because I mean they can ask somebody to help with the test task. So it's really important to ask them to do a feedback. So how have they checked the validity, how they worked on the project, and that's how they're going to work with your project. So it will be really relevant. So for the test tasks, we have been testing different platforms and resources. I think one of really good ones would be a Test Gorilla. For you just get a lot of resources, and by the end of the day, making everything tailored would work better. And then just creating a library of test tasks and adapting it to individual needs would work way better. Uh, and yeah, as I've mentioned, you still will need an industry expert opinion. And initially, probably it's nice to work with them to understand what are the specifics. And once you understand how it works and how the industry experts just assess the talents, then you can implement it into your pipeline. And for sure, do not hire unless you check the references, because we had this couple of times when talent is ideal, everything is done really well. But the problem is that a person can have a great skill set, great mind, but the culture, which you can see during the work process, can change. And the best way is to ask the previous employers or colleagues. And we had a case when we hired a really great talent, and we got a little bit of bad reference from previous employer, but we neglected. We saw that they were upset because this person moved from their job to ours. And basically we had feedback that this person was a liar. And first couple of months was really good, but then it started, and in a month we realized that we made a mistake. But you either win or you learn. So we learned. And yeah, that's why I'm recommending to basically check the references. So the next step would be onboarding, and it's the most important part of any new team member, because that's the first impression, not only for him but for you as well. And you should make it as smooth as possible. And of course, you need a preparation. So the way we do, and works really well for ourselves and for our clients as well, is we plan an icebreaker meeting where we invited talent for an online meetup where they meet at least their squad or maybe a whole team, and everybody introduces themselves. It takes around somewhere 10 to 15 minutes. So everybody says hi, what they do in the company, and just welcomes the team member. So if you're a company of, 20 people, then it could work well. If you're, 50 to 100, definitely just make an introduction to the squad. And also you need to make a personal introduction of supervisor who will be working with this person. And the process owner of the onboarding and welcoming should be a recruiter who was in direct communication with the talent, because this is the first familiar face for the talent, and there's some kind of trust already because they have been in talks and interviewing. So it's kind of, taking on with a hand of your talent and just showing around and introducing to everyone. And then you should also have a first day agenda with all related documents. And please never send this document before the onboarding, because that's what a lot of companies are doing. Basically, they send out tons of documents just and leave talents to read it and process it, and they just don't know how to do it. Well, maybe they can, but it's not the best thing. And also, it, like, you know, the job hasn't started really yet. So please do it after the welcome day and onboarding, and create a smooth onboarding process for your talents. Also, keep in mind that you should make a company presentation. Uh, do not expect people to get all the information from the website, from all social medias. It's their research. Maybe do it, maybe not. It also tells a lot about their approach, but still, it's nice to tell about what your company is about, how you structure your company. So let's let's say the way we do, there's a supervisor who is telling the company structure, the agile structure, who is the chapter lead, who is the squad lead, how we interact with each other, what are the tools that we use for communication, for project management, what is our DNA, what we value, what kind of benefits they can get. Just, do it step by step and make sure that all the questions are answered. And of course, make sure that you set the proper expectations. Because let's say every company has individual approach to communication. Let's say some of companies prefer to exchange all information via chats in a Slack or Google or whatever it is. And some of the companies just create tasks in their project management tools like Jira or ClickUp. So make sure that you communicate this. If you do not have an SOPs or playbooks, just tell how it's expected to behave. Then the response times. So whether they should respond to you in the first hour, first 5 minutes, or 24 hours. And how their performance will be measured. Because if you do not know by the end of the year how how you how your performance will be measured, if you're doing well or not, what kind of KPIs you have, and if your salary will be raised or not, it should be based on specific data. So if you do not have it created, well, please make sure that you have done it before the talent asks you. And finally, help them grow or watch them go. The first important thing we have already done, we have hired someone, but the second is to maintain the team and keep them happy. So how we can ensure that everything works properly? Well, first of all, we need to have an SOPs. Majority of the companies, they rely on talents and some different roles, which is important, but you just have to have a backup. If person leaves the company or something changes, somebody else should change that person and do the same tasks as they did. So the easiest would be to have everything written down from A to B, like what is the first thing they do, how they respond, what are the messages. So in our companies, we have SOPs for literally everything. And if something happens and we have a conversation with the team members that we do not have an answer, then definitely once we have an answer, they're going to be implementing an SOPs. And an SOP is your knowledge, is your experience, is your approach, and you master it and you shape it all the time. So it's like never-ending document. Then the tools. which you have to have structured for every individual squad. There might be different tools, but try to keep everything in the same infrastructure. Like from our experience, like in different companies, we have different infrastructure. I would say probably one of the most cool ones would be ClickUp and Zoho. In terms of affordability, definitely ClickUp. And then make sure that you measure divided by your team members. Either you do a time tracking, which is really popular in tech. I would say that that's the best thing you can do in a design, marketing fields, because there's some stuff which you cannot measure because people just need to do research and think. And then if you measure a time, it will be tough. So the way we do is we measure tasks. So we know what we need to do on a daily basis. And basically, if the tasks are done, then it's done. And if you're building a good work environment, believe me, people will ask you for more tasks or will ask you to give them something else because it will get boring. So yeah, that's different approaches, but I'm sharing the ones that works best for us. Then building connections. So once you have your team members, especially remote ones, building connections is really hard. Once you meet every now and then in the office space, so you interact, you socialize, but those guys, they just get a tasks, and if they're I don't know, lucky enough, they might come to team meetups every once or two times a year, or you're going to visit them, which is really nice, and you should do it. But you should also build a communication and relationship via online tools. And one of the best things would be a group online meetups, which can be related to the squad. So you can meet, let's say, every week or dedicate part of your reporting meetings for a chit chat. Maybe not long, but anything from 15 to 16 minutes. You can also arrange group meetings for different roles in the company who are interested in books, in movies, or anything like this, depending on how big is your team. But try to basically get all this information from your team members, what they're interested in. Then one-on-one meetings. So for sure, you need to do it with your talent. If you're a supervisor or if you're a talent, make it with your supervisor because you have this chance to exchange information, which is, all the meetups you have during a month, it's all related to a specific task or a job, and it's all about work. And you just need a meeting with a goal to exchange with emotions. And I remember when I started to work with Germans, I was having this hard time because we had to do a lot of documents, and I was really bad at making documents at that time. And then we started to do this one-on-one meetings with one of my advisors, and all the stress I had during the months, I was, basically sharing my opinion and all those emotions with him, and it was really funny that he mostly didn't respond anything, but the moment that I could just share what I was thinking and was sharing out loud, it helped me to process and just have a relief. So make sure that you have this kind of communication with your team members, and it also helps you to build the trust. Then games would be really nice thing if you have this culture and people are really into that. It can be anything from, I don't know, some online games like shooters, just table games or board games. Um, so just ask what your team members are interested in, and they can meet as little as two people, as much as, I don't know, 20 people, and play different stuff. If you are into strategy or I don't know, racing. So you can find basically everything. And in one of our companies, we have been playing Counter-Strike every now and then, and we have been playing also Need for Speed. And it was fun. We were doing it on every Friday. So sometimes offline, sometimes online, but it's really cool if you have this. So I would encourage to push it forward. And finally, benefits and community. And the first one here is know your colleague and not your customer. So this is specifically a research for your team members. And once you onboard your new team members, make a small research or let them fill out the questionnaire. Where you'll find out more about their favorite movies, songs, where they have traveled, what they're dreaming of. And this questionnaire can be anything from 10 to 20 questions, but it should be like super specific. And then you realize what those people like, what color is their clothes, and what's their mindset, anything. And based on this, you can tailor all the decisions. And what we do, for example, once we have this questionnaire, we try to provide gifts based on those profile informations. Let's say if somebody loves plants, or we for sure going to send them plants on their birthday. Or if somebody loves I know, Batman movie, we're going to send a hoodie with the Batman and some messaging or something like this. So it helps you to basically invest a little bit of time in appreciating people in their values and what they actually like. And that's kind of a relationship thing. So yeah, we should take care of each other. So know your colleague documentation would be really helpful. Then so make sure that your guys are provided with the modern hardware, because this is the main tool. And I know that we had a cases that we were providing bad hardware. We didn't know. I mean, we had, let's say, i5 laptops, which we thought was nice. And then we realized that one of our talents was not happy, but also never communicated this. And he was like, oh, guys, probably we have money problems or something like this, when we actually started to talk. But it was just, actually communicating the problem. So make sure that the hardware and the main tool works really well. Then also an office space, which is important topic. So even though people might work remotely, they still need a space for work. And for some people, it's really good to work from home. But those who have children at home, it can be quite chaotic, and they will need some other space to go. So make sure those people have a place to work from, also a place to socialize, because in the long run, if you have a good home office, you still need to socialize. So just make sure that people have a place to go and talk to like-minded people, to people from other industry, and just gives us freedom and a benefit. Team meetups and events, that's important part of the daily work. So what we're trying to do is we have allocated budget for the development of our talents, and some of the budget, part of the budget is going to educational and let's say event sites. And during a year, all team members write down what kind of events they would like to visit, and they can decide if it's just one event which has, I don't know, X price, and they can split this X amount across, I don't know, 10 different events, which will be cheaper. But in any case, they should get information from other events. They should visit and go to meetups even for free, whatever. But they encourage to push your team members to just interact with others. Then we believe that in a healthy body, there's a healthy mind. And part of the budget we have allocated for the development of talents, especially on remote ones. It works really well because majority of people now live healthy lives. They want to go to gym, to swim. There we have talents who go to dance lessons or yoga classes, or they just get language trainings, whatever they need. Just support their personal growth, which maybe not all the time will be related to the job, but it will be good for their work-life balance. So it's easy and straightforward. Healthy body equals healthy mind. And of course, appreciation. Whatever they do, whatever your team members do, try to give the feedback, uh, whether it's bad or it's good or wrong. Just give a proper feedback, appreciate the time they dedicate to you, and try to build relationships. That's how it is. Overall, hiring and managing your remote team, as I have listed, it's quite tough. It's a lot of work and sometimes boring. So that's what we have learned through the years. And if you don't want to do this, you can reach out to me on a LinkedIn or via email, and we can help you with setting up your team or consulting how to solve the problem. That's it. My name is Valerian. I'm a founder of Gegidze, and this was how to hire and manage your remote team. Thanks.
Hi, Valerian, again.
Hi.
I'm back to happy to reconnect with you after the presentation. Thank you so much. That was definitely not your average general presentation, I felt like it poured out of practical, tiny, like really doable, simple steps and things and advices. So thank you very much for sharing all your knowledge, because I do know you've spent quite some time gathering it all and figuring out the best way to get there. But at the moment we don't have any questions from the live viewers. But I wouldn't want to finalize this webinar without kind of telling a bit more about what you're doing as a business, right? So perhaps the most, again, practical way would be like, if I'm a startup and I'm looking for remote employees, guide me through the process, like how it works, how you help from the day zero,
Sure. Yeah, Victoria, thanks for the question. I actually missed to tell that part, but let's say if you're a startup founder and you want to find the best possible talents or your team members, and you also want to make it cost efficient, what we would encourage you to do is set up a consultancy meeting with us, which takes around 30 to 60 minutes, where we learn your individual requirements, your goals, your budget, and based on your individual requirements and needs, we will provide you with a solution of setting up your remote team somewhere in Caucasus region or near to your time zone. So it can be anything from Georgia, Armenia, Turkey, Egypt, Balkans, South America, or India. And what happens in this case is it's not like a classical outsourcing. It's basically setting up your in-house remote team where you have a transparency, you negotiate the salary, and we do the boring part related to recruitment and the payroll. So everything that I've described today is basically included and just provided under 2 weeks' time.
Oh, sorry, my microphone. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's very important that the startups watching this now or later on can understand what type of services are you actually providing. So basically, yeah, very happy to hear that there's such a trustworthy, I would say, business provider, service provider who takes care of all of those parts that can be and definitely are very challenging for any company, startup, or whatever else. But yeah, just to finalize this, I guess, tell me please, how is like, once, for example, if I'm a startup and I have gone through this recruiting process with you, and now I have a group of remote people, for example, in Georgia, working for me, but they're working with you, right? Through you, with us.
Yeah,
Could you please tell what's the benefits of having this remote team through you later on? You understand what I mean? Like, how do you keep them
absolutely.
engaged at the same time, providing that feeling of community because they're kind of working for the same project, but they're not with the core team and they're with you. So, yeah, please tell me a bit more about that as well.
Sure, that's a great question. So, if you're a startup based in European Union or in the US or somewhere else, and if you want to hire someone outside of your country, then you challenge a number of barriers. The first one would be a legal barrier, because if you hire internationally, then you need to be compliant with your local labor code and also compliant with the labor code where you hire. And then anything in between is building the proper bridge and hiring legal setup. So most probably you will need to uh, set up your company in the place where your teams are, or you need to hire using your local labor code, which means the same wages, same insurances, same taxes, and it's getting way more expensive. Talking about expenses, you make a cost reduction around from 50 up to 65, 70% while working with Eastern European countries. So let's say if we take an example of Latvian startup hiring in Georgia, then it would be anything from 50 to 60% cheaper depending on the role. Then the culture and the quality would be really compelling in this case, which works well. So you get the same quality, same culture for affordable price without any headaches. You don't need to make a payroll, bookkeeping. You don't need any lawyers. So that's main thing. And probably last but not least would be timing. On average, based on the statistics, hiring currently in Europe takes anywhere from 3 up to 6 months, depending on the role and seniority level. And in our case, we do it in 2 weeks' time. So in 2 weeks, you can just hire someone straight away and start working. So that's the main thing.